This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The head of Canada's most populous province is taking another step to counter President Trump's trade war. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
House Republicans move one step closer to passing a temporary spending bill and avoiding a government shutdown, but more work remains. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Palestinian activist can't leave the country until he has a hearing. And security clearances yanked for former members of the Biden administration. We'll have those stories.
On Wall Street, markets will try to recover from the ugliest day for stocks so far this year yesterday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The Los Angeles District Attorney says he won't be supporting the resentencing of the Menendez brothers. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Wall Street suffers its worst day since 2022, with a massive plunge on Monday after President Trump did not rule out more tariffs and a recession during his interview with Fox Sunday Morning Futures. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports that Canada is ramping up the rhetoric, demanding the president back off on tariffs and a trade war, or they'll counter with taxes and tariffs of their own.
We're going to take in hundreds of millions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch.
The head of Canada's most populous province is taking another step to counter President Trump's trade war.
It needs to end. That's why I've been crystal clear. Until these tariffs are off the table, until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent.
Premier Doug Ford says Ontario is now charging 25% more for electricity to 1.5 million American homes and businesses in New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. Ford says on CTV it's a necessary step amid what he calls the chaos and confusion of the president's on-again, off-again tariffs.
I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people, because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump.
The president's trade war has incensed Canadians, sent markets sharply lower, and worried American consumers about higher prices. And while yesterday he did not rule out a recession.
I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
House Republicans take an important step towards avoiding a partial government shutdown at week's end as they attempt to pass a funding measure that would last through September. But John Stolnis reports from Washington it's far from a done deal.
Last night, the House Rules Committee voted 9-3 to allow the continuing resolution to advance to the full chamber for a vote expected to take place later today. The legislation would fund the government for the rest of the fiscal year through September, with a slight increase in defense spending and a reduction in non-discretionary spending from 2024 levels. It would also avert a government shutdown with a deadline of midnight on Friday. It is some of those cuts that has House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and every other Democrat ready to vote no.
Instead of using their majority to make life better for the American people, Donald Trump and House Republicans are crashing the economy and hurting hard-working American families.
Speaking to reporters yesterday, Leader Jeffries says MAGA Republicans want to shut down the government.
The Republican bill dramatically cuts health care, nutritional assistance for children and families, and veterans' benefits. It is not something we could ever support.
Aboard Air Force One yesterday, President Trump was asked if he thinks there will be a government shutdown.
Could happen. I mean, the Democrats want that. They want to destroy the country. So I can't tell you, but it could happen. It shouldn't have happened, and it probably won't. I think the CR is going to get passed. We'll see, but it could happen.
It's unclear if House Speaker Mike Johnson has the votes to pass the legislation. If every member of Congress is present and votes, and every Democrat votes against the CR as expected, Johnson would only be able to have one defection in order for the bill to pass. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie confirmed yesterday he will vote no, and at least two others, Rich McCormick and Tim Burchett, said they were leaning no as of last night as well, with a handful of others still undecided. Democratic Congresswoman Catherine Clark echoed other Democrats who are fearful the bill is the first step to a Republican elimination of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
This is all part of the same scheme, the same crime spree that we are seeing that steals deserving taxpayer dollars, and all to give a tax cut to the very wealthiest people in this country.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Pro-Palestinian protests, colleges on notice when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning after some severe weather across the nation yesterday. Today, a reprieve. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The weather across the nation is generally going to be very quiet. We are watching a slow-moving storm finally exiting the southeastern United States with just a lingering shower or two first thing this morning along the Carolina coast. But by midday into the afternoon, these areas, along with the rest of the southeast, will have plenty of sunshine. That sunshine will be widespread from the central and southern plains northeastward through the middle Atlantic and continuing into the northeast. Northern New York into New England may have a few more clouds and late-day showers as a cold front approaches from Canada. With that sunshine, temperatures are going to soar well above the historical average for most. Widespread 70s will cover the southeast with some 80s and even temperatures near 90 in Texas. Farther north into Kansas and southern Nebraska, and then eastward to the middle Atlantic and northeast, will be widespread 60s and 70s with some 40s and 50s in northern New York and New England. All of these areas will range from 10 to as much as 25 degrees above average for mid-March. That aforementioned front will be sending a little cooler weather back into the northern plains and Great Lakes today. Highs for the day will still be near or even a little bit above average, though it will be a drop from the highs on Monday. One area where some storms may impact the country is in the west. The first storm system will be heading into Southern California and then continuing into Arizona today. And another system will be developing late in the day in the northwest with some late afternoon rain along the coast of Washington. That's the weather across America. It is going to be a cool day in Los Angeles, California, with occasional rain and drizzle and a high of 62. It's going to be a warmer day in Huntsville, Alabama, with plenty of sunshine and a high up to 75. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow our program wherever you get your podcasts: YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The first person known to be detained for deportation under President Trump's promised crackdown on anti-Semitic college campus protests is in a Louisiana jail. In a court ruling from late last night, Mahmoud Khalil will not be deported until a hearing scheduled for tomorrow. Correspondent Jake Offenhartz reports on what led ICE agents to detain the well-known Palestinian activist at Columbia University.
Mahmoud Khalil is the first person facing deportation under President Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestinian campus activists, who the administration has likened to terror sympathizers. Khalil, a lawful permanent resident with a green card, had not been charged with any crime when he was taken into custody by ICE agents at his university-owned home near Columbia. Agents initially claimed to be acting on a State Department order to revoke his student visa. Khalil and other student leaders have rejected claims of anti-Semitism, saying they are part of a broader anti-war movement.
Israel bombs! USA praise! Israel bombs! USA praise! How many kids did you kill today? How many kids did you kill today?
He's currently being held in a Louisiana detention center with no clear timeline for a hearing. Khalil was one of the most visible activists in last year's protests, serving as a negotiator for students who erected a tent encampment on campus.
Correspondent Jake Offenhartz. The Trump administration also announces the Department of Education has opened an investigation into 60 universities, including Ivy League schools such as Columbia, Harvard, Brown, and Cornell. Warning letters were sent saying they could face legal action if they don't protect Jewish students and keep access to campus facilities uninterrupted. America in the Morning continues. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard announces the Trump administration has stripped security clearances from dozens of former national security officials, including former Biden administration Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Gabbard said the daily intelligence briefing for the president would not be shared with former President Joe Biden. The presidential daily briefing has been shared with former presidents, but Biden suspended the practice for Donald Trump, President 45, after he left office in 2021. Update from Wall Street next, and retail numbers, the latest on consumer spending, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a very ugly sell-off, the worst of the year for stocks yesterday. The Dow fell almost 900 points. All the major averages are lower for the year.
March Madness is upon us. However, this year it started in the stock market as opposed to on the basketball courts, as investors continue to climb that proverbial wall of worry. Whether it's fears over an economic slowdown, a potential recession, tariffs, overspending on AI, check any box that you like. But this has led into a pullback and increased volatility.
Henyon and Walsh's Kevin Mon on CNBC. Tesla shares plunged 14%, the worst day for that stock in 5 years, after protests at Tesla stores nationwide by Americans unhappy with CEO Elon Musk, who's making sweeping government job and program cuts. After the Treasury Secretary told CNBC last week the economy is slowing and there will be a detox period, the Wall Street Journal reported that President Trump then declined to rule out a recession.
If you can't take that thing, get out now. Get on that.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to have the same drumbeat every day.
Yeah.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer and CNBC's Carl Quintanilla. Some investors warning that a bigger pullback for stocks could be coming.
The risks now are rising that we get something worse than a 10% drawdown, something, say, in the 14 to 20% range. But I do think it's an important distinction because you're starting to see other houses start talking about the risks of a recession are rising.
That's RBC's Lori Calvasina on CNBC. Consumer spending watched as a barometer for the strength of the economy. It dropped for a second month in a row in February in the new CNBC National Retail Federation Retail Monitor.
The Retail Monitor, powered by real credit card spending data from Affinity Solutions, shows retail spending ex-auto and gas declining by a modest 0.22% after January's sharp decline. It was the first back-to-back monthly decline for the monitor. We have back data going back to October 2022. The NRF said in its analysis that consumer spending dipped slightly again in February due to the combination of harsh winter weather and increased economic uncertainty caused by tariff and other policies that have started to negatively affect consumer sentiment.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Dick's Sporting Goods and from Kohl's. We get the latest on job opportunity and labor turnover. That's the JOLTS report. And we find out how small business owners are feeling about the economy. We'll get the new National Federation of Independent Business survey. 5 years ago today, the COVID-19 outbreak was declared a pandemic.
We remember that one all too well. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, freedom closer for the infamous Menendez brothers. That and more after these messages. Back now, you're with America in the Morning. The Los Angeles District Attorney says he won't support resentencing Eric and Lyle Menendez. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on the pair's latest roadblock to freedom.
The Los Angeles district attorney says he won't be supporting the resentencing of the Menendez brothers. That's because he says they lied. District Attorney Nathan Hochman said Lyle and Eric Menendez have repeatedly lied about why they killed their parents at their Beverly Hills home in 1989. The brothers are serving life terms without the possibility of parole. Hochman, who took office in December, said last month that he opposes a new trial for the brothers.
The jury heard this self-defense defense way back when, and the jury rejected it. We're just basically, in many ways, following the jury's verdict.
His predecessor had recommended the brothers be resentenced to 50 years to life. That would make them immediately eligible for parole. A resentencing hearing originally scheduled for December is set for later this month. I'm Haya Panjwani.
In the Dominican Republic, a University of Pittsburgh college student remains missing. Correspondent Ed Donahue has an update.
The search continues in the Dominican Republic for a missing college student from the U.S. 20-year-old University of Pittsburgh student Sudichka Konaki was last seen Thursday at a beach near the resort town Punta Cana. Her family in Virginia says Konaki was on spring break with friends. A police complaint notes the student's belongings, including her phone and wallet, were left with her friends, which is unusual because she always carried her phone with her. Konaki's father tells WTOP Radio in Washington, since she has not been found, they want police to investigate multiple options, including accidental drowning, kidnapping, or foul play. I'm Ed Donahue.
This is National 311 Day. 311 is the system for non-emergency calls in many cities across the country for residents to report issues, find out about city services, and ask questions. America in the Morning for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Talk of recession and action on tariffs added up to massive losses on Wall Street. I'm Richard Johnson.
Canada's governing Liberal Party has elected a new leader in a landslide vote. I'm Ed Donahue.
Musk on Doge successes, lone dissenter in House vote on border protection, and Ukraine-Russian peace talks move to Saudi Arabia.
A tornado hit a Florida TV station during a live weather broadcast. I'm Sue Aller.
Elon's ex is giving him a hard time. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A clear timeline has been discerned in the death of Gene Hackman, his wife, and his dog. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy on America in the Morning.
Most of the nation is going to have quieter weather today. The one area where storms may have some impact across the country is in the west. The first of these systems heading through Southern California will be continuing into Arizona today. There'll be some rain through these areas with just the highest elevation snowfall, and this will let up early tonight in California, but increase across Arizona and then reach parts of western New Mexico late tonight. Then we'll have another system developing late today in the northwest with some late afternoon rain along the Washington coast, and this will rapidly expand south and east tonight, heading into Northern California and then eastward to Idaho. Some snow will also be forming in the Cascades as colder air arrives. We're also watching a slow-moving storm system finally exiting the southeastern United States with just a lingering shower or two first thing this morning. But we'll see some sunshine returning in the midday into the afternoon along with the rest of the southeast. That sunshine will be widespread from central and southern plains northeastward through the middle Atlantic and then continuing into the northeast. Northern New York and northern New England may have some more clouds and a few late-day showers as a cold front approaches from Canada. With that sunshine, temperatures are going to soar well above the historical average for most. Widespread 70s will cover the southeast with some 80s and even temperatures near 90 in Texas. Farther north into Kansas and southern Nebraska, and then eastward through the middle Atlantic and northeast will be 60s and 70s with some 40s and 50s in northern New York into New England. All of these areas will range from 10 to as much as 25 degrees above the historical average for mid-March. That cold front from Canada will be sending a little cooler weather back into the northern plains and Great Lakes. Highs today will still be near or even a little bit above average. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. There are serious concerns today will be a repeat of yesterday's nightmare on Wall Street. Correspondent Rich Johnson checks the numbers and what's behind stocks falling in the past 2 weeks.
They always cheer when they ring the bell to end the trading day on the New York Stock Exchange, but not every day ends like Monday, as the markets reacted to President Trump refusing to rule out the possibility of a recession this year. The S&P 500 dropped more than 2.5%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down by more than 2%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ lost 4% of its value. Trump's Sunday comments in Fox News may have started the skid, but Canada helped it along with tough talk from incoming Prime Minister Mark Carney.
We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
And tougher action by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who announced an immediate 25% tariff on electricity heading south, mostly to New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. That's 25% for now.
I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
And the tariff retaliation is not just from Canada. China has added a 15% tax to some American farm products. Last year, the U.S. exported more than $29 billion worth of farm goods to China. As traders gear up for work today, the question is, was that it? Or will the markets take another big fall?
If you're a long-term investor, you should not panic.
Market strategist Kenny Polcari, in comments courtesy of Yahoo Business, believes the markets have hit or are very close to hitting bottom. But that doesn't eliminate anxiety about a possible recession.
Do I think we could possibly have a recession if everything stays the way they are with tariffs and spending and less government spending and intentional slowdown? Sure, but the depth of it, nobody can really tell yet because it's too fluid.
So how will it end? Energy Secretary Chris Wright told a financial conference that the U.S. is in active dialogue with Canada as an April 2nd deadline for U.S. tariffs on both Canada and Mexico approaches. I'm Rich Johnson.
President Trump is downplaying worries about tariffs, saying they'll be a boon to the nation's economy and financial future. However, north of the border, Canada's changing leadership is planning to get tough against the U.S. and is threatening a tariff war. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Canada's governing Liberal Party has elected a new leader in a landslide vote to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
The next Prime Minister of Canada,
Mark Carney is a former central banker. He comes to power as President Trump continues to talk about tariffs and making Canada the 51st state.
The Americans want our resources, our water, our land, our country. Think about it. If they succeeded, they would destroy our way of life. In America, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right. America is not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form.
Carney is widely expected to trigger an election in Canada soon in the midst of threats of sweeping tariffs by President Trump.
A person who worships at the altar of Donald Trump will kneel before him, not stand up to him.
Using a hockey reference, Carney said they didn't ask for this fight.
We didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. But Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
Trump's trade war and his talk of making Canada the 51st state have infuriated Canadians.
And my government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect.
I'm Ed Donahue.
Saying he expects to reach $1 trillion in savings for taxpayers, Elon Musk appeared on Fox Business touting his work and saying that there's fraud in Social Security and entitlement programs that he wants the Department of Government Efficiency to find and eliminate. Here's the latest from correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
Elon Musk says that Social Security and other federal programs will be targeted in his hunt for fraudulent spending.
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress.
Musk told Fox Business Network that most of the federal spending is entitlements, making it a big one to eliminate.
There was a report issued by the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, last year. So during the Biden administration, which estimated the federal government fraud to be $500 billion. So just to be clear, that's not a Trump administration thing, that's a Biden administration thing. So what we're trying to do is get that number down to a much smaller figure, save money for the American taxpayer.
Musk is suggesting that $500 to $700 billion in waste needs to be cut. That far outpaces the figures that government watchdogs have provided on improper payments.
But I think we're doing the right thing here. There's been a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government. When you're part of the government, you saw a lot of that, and there's been, if you look at the Inspector General reports and the Government Accountability Office, there have been many audits that have pointed out that there's a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government.
Musk's comments on Social Security and other benefits provided to Americans could rattle politicians on both sides of the aisle. President Donald Trump has said that Social Security benefits would not be reduced under his watch. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Among the stories we're covering next, cracking down on Mexican cartels and disaster at sea, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. You're with America in the Morning. The House of Representatives passed a bill aimed at cracking down on Mexican cartels' use of tunnels underneath the southern border used to smuggle illegal immigrants and narcotics into the U.S. The bipartisan-sponsored bill overwhelmingly passed in a 402-1 vote, with the lone dissenter being Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. The legislation, titled the Subterranean Border Defense Act, would direct the Customs and Border Protection Unit to submit an annual report to Congress about the cartel's use of tunnels. It's estimated that since 1990, officials have discovered more than 140 tunnels that have breached the U.S. border, with an 80% increase in tunnel activity occurring since 2008. Tornadoes touched down in the Orlando, Florida area, causing at least one home to collapse and damaging a number of other buildings. Sue Aller reports that a newscast for an Orlando TV station had to abruptly come to a halt as the twister bore down on their studios.
Anything can happen on live TV. Around 9:40 yesterday morning, a tornado struck the Fox 5 Orlando TV station. While meteorologist Brooks Gardner was on the air warning viewers about the tornado, when he realized it was heading directly towards the studio.
You can see the debris flying there on the camera. This is a tornado. Seek shelter immediately. Get under your desks, guys. Anchors under the desks. Everybody get on the desks.
Garner was shaken up but remained composed and continued to provide updates. After the tornado passed, Garner took a moment to catch his breath.
I've been doing this for a very long time. That's the first time a tornado has hit me while I'm doing the weather.
The National Weather Service rated the tornado as an EF2 with peak wind gusts of 115 miles per hour, equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. The twister caused significant damage, including destroying 2 homes north of Orlando and breaking car windows at the TV station. While Florida is more famous for its hurricanes, tornadoes are not uncommon in the state, especially during the spring and summer months. On average, there are about 46 tornadoes a year. Often they are less intense than those in the Midwest, but they can still cause significant damage and pose a serious threat to life and property. I'm Sue Aller.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be in Saudi Arabia, as will Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, to discuss moving forward with peace talks aimed at ending the more than 3-year war between Russia and Ukraine. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
Saudi Arabia will host a new diplomatic push this week between the U.S. and Ukraine. Officials from both Washington and Kyiv will meet in the kingdom.
You're gambling with World War III.
Following last month's stunning Oval Office blow-up between Presidents Trump and Zelensky yesterday.
I think you're going to have eventually, and maybe not in the distant future, you can have some pretty good results.
The president sounded upbeat about the talks, but also questions whether Ukraine actually wants peace.
Well, right now they haven't shown it to the extent that they should.
In Kyiv, Zelensky said over the weekend Russia's been ramping up attacks instead of thinking about how to end the war. Asked what Moscow's expecting from the talks, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says it doesn't matter what Russia's expecting, but what the U.S. is expecting. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A cargo ship that smashed into a U.S. military-chartered oil tanker off the northeast coast of England Monday was carrying sodium cyanide, which led to the dramatic explosion and fire. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports the American flag ship was anchored in the North Sea at the time it was struck.
Britain's Maritime and Coast Guard Agency says over 30 people have been brought ashore, but their condition is not immediately clear. Video footage aired by the BBC and apparently filmed from a nearby vessel showed thick black smoke pouring from both ships. The RNLI Lifeboat Agency says there were reports that a number of people had abandoned the vessels following a collision, and there were fires on both ships. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The Elon Musk-owned X social media platform was under a cyber attack for several hours yesterday. A dark horse has come forward. Here's Chuck Palm to explain in today's Tech News.
Elon Musk's X social media platform experienced a spate of outings from about 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., according to Down Detector. Elon Musk appeared in an interview Monday afternoon on Fox Business and told anchor Larry Kudlow that the company was still not sure exactly what happened, but claimed that the cyber attack came from IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area. Some X users, when trying to access the service, said they saw error message from Cloudflare, a content delivery network and cybersecurity provider, that said the web server is returning an unknown error. A pro-Palestinian group called Dark Storm Team has taken credit for the attacks, which are likely a style known as denial of service attacks. A large number of computers are recruited to attack a server IP address, causing it to reboot multiple times. Neither theory for the Ukrainians or Dark Storm has been proven as of yet. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Tuesday Sports is in with America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Several big moves on the first day of NFL free agency, starting with a big trade. The Commanders getting tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Texans for a package of draft picks. Quarterbacks on the move. The Seahawks signed Sam Darnold for 3 years. The Jets are set to sign Justin Fields for 2 years, and Zach Wilson is on his way to Miami. NBA, the Nuggets thumped the Thunder 140-127 in a big clash out west. That ends OKC's 7-game winning streak. 35 points for Nikola Jokic, 34 for Jamal Murray. Nets stopped a 7-game losing streak with a 111-108 win over the Lakers. Coach Jordi Fernandez.
Credit to our guys. Like Z did a great job, and everybody else, Tyrese, Keon, our energy was there, and that's the reason why we came up with a win.
Mavericks got by the Spurs to snap a 6-game skid. Warriors whacked the Blazers for their 5th straight dub. Hornets rallied past the Heat. Miles Bridges had 35. Raptors ripped the Wizards. Toronto native A.J. Lawson scored a career-best 32 in his hometown. Bulls pounded the Pacers. Josh Giddey had a season-high 29 before hurting his ankle in the fourth quarter. Wins for the Hawks, Celtics, Grizzlies, Knicks, and Rockets. College basketball, 2 more automatic bids were secured last night. Wofford wins the Southern Conference tournament, and Troy takes the Sun Belt. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, why a toddler wants his mom arrested after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. The full timeline has been released in the death of Gene Hackman and his wife. Kevin Carr has details.
Questions remained for days after Gene Hackman and his wife were found dead in their home, but now there are some clearer answers. Hackman's wife, Betsy Arakawa, is believed to have died first on February 11th from hantavirus. This is a disease transmitted by rodent waste, as Chief Medical Investigator Heather Jarrell explained.
Laboratory testing was positive for hantavirus at a clinical lab.
After Arakawa died, Hackman was left alone in the house with the couple's 3 dogs. Hackman suffered from advanced Alzheimer's disease, so it was possible he was not fully aware of what happened. And with Arakawa as his sole caregiver, he was not able to take care of himself. The last record of pacemaker activity occurred on February 17th, and he passed that day or the next.
The cause of death for Mr. Gene Hackman is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor.
One mysterious aspect about the case was the couple's dog, a 12-year-old Australian Kelpie mix that was found dead nearby Arakawa's body. The dog had a recent medical procedure which resulted in it being kept in a crate, which likely resulted in death by dehydration and starvation. It is unlikely the dog was infected with hantavirus, as New Mexico public health veterinarian Aaron Phipps explained.
Dogs do not get sick from hantavirus.
Hackman and Arakawa's remaining dogs, a German Shepherd and a Shepherd mix, were found on the grounds and are now being cared for by a friend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Calling 911 should be out of emergency concern, a life-threatening situation, but for police in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, the call came in from a 4-year-old asking that the police come and arrest his mother. Correspondent Julie Walker reports on why the child wanted his mom behind bars, audio courtesy of the Mount Pleasant Police Department.
Did you call the police?
Yeah.
Why?
I told my mommy to go to jail.
Why do you want mommy to go to jail?
Because they're just being bad to me.
Why is she being bad to you? What's she doing to you?
Just keep on doing.
She hate you, or is it because you didn't get ice cream yet?
I didn't get ice cream.
So is that why you're upset?
Yeah.
This is Racine County 911. What's the address of the emergency?
A 4-year-old boy in Wisconsin calls Mount Pleasant Police 911 to report on his mom.
My mom is being bad.
Then his mom got on the phone with him to explain.
Put her to jail. So leave me alone.
I ate his ice cream, so that's probably why he's calling 911. Okay.
That's right. The little boy said his mom ate his ice cream. Police dropped by the house last week just to make sure everything was okay and explain about 911 to him.
I ate his ice cream.
You ate his ice cream?
Mommy has to go to jail.
Should we take her to jail for eating your ice cream?
Yes.
They say the 4-year-old decided he did not want his mom to go to jail. But that's not all. Police came back the next day with ice cream for him and posted about it on social media. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.